Here we go, I think. Yeah. Good evening, friends. Let's see if it's working. There's always that little delay when I don't know if I'm here or not. I think I am, though. Yes! It's working. Monday evening. Guided meditation. I feel like I could sleep right now. So this is gonna be an interesting meditation. I'll never forget. I held a meditation. Hey Jack, good evening. I held a meditation in Sri Lanka one time at it was some kind of festival. Like I can't remember what it was, but it was like the Sudhuhandra, the white monk, is coming to teach meditation, and I had a meditation class for the kids. And I spoke about, I don't actually remember exactly what I did, but I did some kind of meditation, and all the kids fell asleep. There was like one or two kids who didn't fall asleep, and then afterwards they said, yeah, it was really nice, we did sleeping meditation, they call it. Hey Stephen. And I felt so embarrassed, like, oh no, they were not supposed to fall asleep. I didn't succeed. That was when I was quite newly ordained, and I thought that was a bit embarrassing. But I think in a way it's a good grade, or a good opinion if you fall asleep, because that means you relax, and yeah, sleeping is never bad. Hey JVB. Did I get a haircut? No, I actually just showered, so my hair just looks slick. I'm very simple with my hair, so yeah, after shower it looks a little bit more slick like that. That's why. I got a haircut, but that's a month ago, so probably not what you're talking about. But yeah, so hopefully it won't be sleeping meditation today. At least not for me. It would be a shame if I fell asleep during the meditation, even though I feel right now I could do like this and I probably would fall asleep. Have you found that it helps to meditate before sleep, or does it actually make it more difficult? What's your opinion on that? Because we talk about meditation as if it always helps falling asleep, but it doesn't always actually. Sometimes it actually gets you going. So sometimes it can be more difficult to fall asleep after you meditated. It's a bit different from both time to time and person to person, like how I react to it. But I found sometimes if I meditate just before I go to sleep, I'm too kind of alert or something to fall asleep, and sometimes it works perfectly. When you get to REM stage of sleep, mine just gets off the bus. Yeah, REM sleep is interesting. A lot of stuff happens there. I feel right now I could take that. It's interesting when you want to fall asleep and you can't. There's like a point where when you want to fall asleep but you can't because you have to stay up. There's a point where you kind of passes and you can't fall asleep anymore, and then you're almost like too tired. And I find my kids become like that all the time, and then they start making bad jokes and just become silly. It's almost like being a little bit drunk. And I have that quite often when I get too tired. I behave like I'm a little bit drunk because I just exhausted. But I do find it nice to sit when I am tired, because it gives just like a calmness to it that makes it easier most of the time. It looks nice. You and I have a similar type of hair, so people always confuse my wet slick hair for haircuts. Well, yeah, I actually have a secret. When I've had the same hairstyle since I was a teenager, I think, and it's super simple. I never use any gel or anything. I just take a shower, and then I put a little bit of oil. I used to put it's called neem oil when I was in Sri Lanka. It's like a special oil they use a lot for hair. I just take a little bit of that, and then comb my hair, and I put on what we call it's like a scarf. So I bind the hair down and I let it sit for half an hour, and then my hair just lies like that, and I don't have to do anything. So I never need to use any styling products or anything. I just do that, and it's like how my hair kind of lies. And I'm so happy about that. I couldn't be bothered with fixing my hair more than that. And I remember when I was a monk, I actually really enjoyed shaving the hair. It was so simple. You just shaved it. If anything, it was like you had to keep it so short. It took a little bit of extra time. I didn't keep it. Some monks would actually shave their heads with a razor to get it really close. I usually didn't do that, because what you don't realize is when it starts coming out, it sticks to the pillow. It's really weird when you have this short hair and you're lying on a pillow. It's like Velcro. It just sticks to the pillow. It's really difficult, unless you have very little hair or maybe soft hair. Then maybe it wouldn't. But for me, at least, when it was just shaved and then just a little bit, and then it would stick to the pillow. So usually I just once per week I shaved it with a trimmer, and then that worked. And it was also really nice because you never had to care about what clothes you wore. It was amazing. I mean, you just wore the same clothes every day. I kind of do that now also, but I change my clothes, which is maybe nice. Well, that made me think of one monk who he actually smelled of ammonia, I think it is, right? You know, when sweat gets so old, it kind of there's some kind of chemical process, so it turns into ammonia, and it's really pungent smell. And I remember I walked next to him, like, oh my goodness, that smells. It was an elderly monk, so he probably didn't shower often or wash his robes very often, but that was really, it's not often you run into that. Let's see, Jack Crusher, why do monks shave if Buddha kept his hair? Is it explained? I think there's some monks who actually shave their eyebrows because they don't want to have anything identifying them. That was the way that it was explained. At least you shouldn't have any features that looked pretty or that you could see was like distinguish you from others. So it's a way of letting go of those things. But at the same time, that also becomes something you hold on to, because now all of a sudden you hold on to the idea that you have no hair. So, I mean, I get the point, and I think it's useful to try at least. I found it comfortable. JVB is saying, nice. Does that oil keep your hair hydrated for a good time? My hair gets dehydrated a bit often. I don't actually know, but it stays looking fresh. Hello, hey Alex, nice to have you here. How do you spell that oil? Is it neem? It's N-E-E-M, N-E-E-M oil. Chama. Buddha didn't shave because he can't be distracted by hairs. By monks but monks can, in my opinion. Sure, yeah. I mean, you don't need to shave. It's not like you need to shave your hair. It's just tradition. Oh, and also lice. Like it's less likely you have lice. I actually did get lice one time at a monastery. I remember feeling when they kind of came into my hair, like, oh, there's something itching. Very sudden and very quick. And it just started biting me everywhere. And I've had lice once in my life, and that was at a monastery I got that. Fortunately, I have very little hair, so it was easy to get rid of them. But it was annoying. I have kids in daycare, and we haven't had lice from them, and that's quite common, actually. Jack is saying, dreaming gets in the way of pure sleep. There was a time whenever I slept, I got so deep in dreaming phase, I was tired when I woke up. Yeah. Oh, poopers, I forgot about the time. Well, it's perfect timing, actually. Like I said, when I get tired, I just start rambling, and it's a little bit all over the place. Today is Monday, so we have guided meditation. Let me just see so I have everything prepared. We start with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, which is that we say 5 things out loud that we can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. And we say them out loud, so we really come back to our senses. After that, we'll ring the bell, and we have 20 minutes of guided meditation. And then after that, we'll do more questions and answers. Yeah, you can ask later, JVB, if you were starting already. So you can say it together with me. You don't necessarily have to say it out loud. It's just the important thing is that you stop and become aware that you are using your senses. So you really come back to your senses, and try to do it without, well, we name it, but try to see more of the shapes and see what the senses are actually telling you without interpreting it. So I see this. That becomes difficult to say. I'm just going to say this beautiful sofa I can see here. I see a chair. I can see a pair of Crocs shoes. I see a printer. And I see a spaceship. So 5 things that I can see around me. And then we take 4 things that we can touch. I can touch the fabric on my pants. I can touch this electrical thing here. I can touch my telephone, and I can touch the carpet. And then we say out loud 3 things that we can hear. I can hear my throat. I can hear the computer fan. And I can hear a car passing. And then after that we do 2 things that we can smell. Strange, that smells like old beer that's been dried into the carpet. No one's ever drunk in here, so that's strange. Maybe there's a bottle around here. And I smell furniture. And then we do 1 thing that we can taste. I can taste the rooibos tea that I just drank. So start by putting yourself in a comfortable position. That can be sitting up, lying down, standing up. You can even be walking if you want to. Preferably you'll keep your eyes closed, but if that's not possible, then it's perfectly fine to keep your eyes open as well. Your mind might be wandering, running to the future, what things you need to do tomorrow, and thinking about things you did earlier today. And it's easy to feel like those things are really important, that you need to send some brain power to them right now. Because if you don't, then something will happen, and that might be something bad. But ask yourself if you can just spend these next 20 minutes leaving those things aside. They won't disappear. They'll be there when you come back. And you won't be able to take any action on them now anyway, because you're sitting still with closed eyes. So, if possible, just wait for the next 20 minutes with engaging, analyzing, trying to figure out or understand, and instead just do the very simple act of observing. Just observing your breath as you're breathing in and breathing out. And for this particular meditation, we're not trying to control the breath. Instead, we're just letting breath happen. And to make it a bit easier to follow along with the breath, we'll be counting from 1 to 8 and then down from 8 to 1. And we'll do 1 repetition together at first, and then you can continue by yourself, and I'll interject throughout the meditation. So breathing in and breathing out. 1. Breathing in and breathing out. 2. Breathing in and breathing out. 3. Breathing in and breathing out. 4. Breathing in, breathing out. 5. Breathing in, breathing out. 6. Breathing in, breathing out. 7. Breathing in, breathing out. 8. Breathing in, breathing out. 7. Breathing in, breathing out. 6. Breathing in and breathing out. 5. Breathing in, breathing out. 4. Breathing in and breathing out. 3. Breathing in and breathing out. 2. Breathing in and breathing out. 1. And now just continue observing your breath, counting from 1 to 8, and then down again from 8 to 1. As you're breathing in, breathing out. 1. Breathing in, breathing out. It's common for people to be hard on themselves with their meditation. They compare their experience to other people's experiences or to their own experiences in the past. They should be breathing more consciously, deeper, slower, shallower. seeing more things, experiencing more things, and they feel like failures, feel like they should be doing better. That is the very best thing you can do to really fail at meditation, is to judge yourself hard. In fact, the act of judging and criticizing is what makes it difficult to meditate. But we're also not searching for the opposite, where you believe that you're so good at meditating that you don't need to stay aware, that you don't need to focus, you're just sitting there doing nothing because you're already half enlightened or fully enlightened, or whatever you believe that you are. And so you don't observe at all. Instead, try to look somewhere in between where you realize that you have limits. Your mind doesn't want to do what you want it to do all the time, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're worthless. That doesn't mean that you can't meditate. It just means that sometimes your mind drifts off. And you're probably very good at meditating at times, and other times maybe not. And that's okay. So just keep being aware of your breath as you're counting it from 1 to 8 and 8 to 1, over and over again, as you're breathing in and breathing out. 1, breathing in and breathing out. If you find yourself suddenly counting 15, 16, 17, that's perfectly fine. You just go back. Start over from 1. It's not about how many times you can go from 8 to 1 and then down again from 1 to 8. Instead, It's about how often you're able to come back and be aware. In fact, the more times you catch yourself drifting away, the stronger your concentration, the stickiness of your mind, your samadhi, or your awareness in your meditation will become. At first, it might even feel like a struggle as you're trying to come back and over again. But eventually, the mind will stick. It's just like placing your finger on your breath and you're just perfectly able to follow it without any effort. And then it'll drift away again. And then it'll come back. So really, all you need to do, you don't need to stop your thoughts, don't need to sit in the lotus position. You don't even have to count from 1 to 8 and 8 to 1. All you need to do is just keep coming back over and over again to your breath. The counting is there to support you. A good posture is there to support you. But really, all you need to do is just come back. As you're breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. For the last part of the meditation, see what happens if you stop the counting. Instead, just rest your awareness on your breath and see what happens as you're counting in and breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. As usual, you can keep on sitting, or you're free to ask questions. I'm just going to get my throat pills because I felt my throat give out a little bit. It's interesting how some sittings feel like they last forever, and some just fly by. This one I felt like I just closed my eyes and then all of a sudden I was ringing the bell. I used to look for a theory as to why it was that it was different, but just came up with it changes. Nice, Stephen. I'm happy you had a nice sitting as well. It's very calm for me. Like I said, the tiredness is going through the screen, I think. So everyone is getting the calmness and tiredness I have. Fortunately, it's a calm tiredness. It's difficult when it's one of those stressful tiredness where you've just been working so hard. I have been working a lot physically today. And my body is actually sore. But it's a relaxed kind of soreness. So that's nice. Also, JVB is saying, thanks for the neem oil. Yeah, try it. It works really well. Very big in India. The neem, I think it's a neem seed, a neem tree. Stephen, it feels nice when you're thinking of something and you keep focusing on the breath and it goes away. Yeah, that's they basically view meditation as two styles. This is called concentration meditation, and what it is that your mind can just focus on one thing at a time. It can kind of shift focus and it can widen your awareness, but if you focus on one thing, then you kind of forget about the other things and you get this like calmness when you're not constantly distorting towards everything, because your body is constantly reacting to the world around you. You have a feeling towards everything, but when you just focus on one thing over and over and over again, and just, like you said, keep coming back, there's this peacefulness, this calmness that comes up. And then you don't distort towards the world around you, and thoughts tend to slow down and disappear. And eventually you get this stickiness of the mind where the breath, your mind just follows the breath without any effort. There's also another way of meditating where you let everything come up and you don't resist anything. And you include everything in your meditation, called insight meditation or vipassana. I separate it in another way, in that I see it as in you have a state where you're not distorting and you're actually aware, and you have a state where you're distorting. So insight meditation tends to just lessen how you distort towards things. You don't feel it so strongly, but you still feel it. But you can actually look at these distortions you have towards the world around you and calm those down, so you can move around and just observe shapes, textures, colors, without really needing to name them. It's not the important thing anymore. It's just observations. Jack is saying, any vacation plans? Any vacation plans going home for summer? I am home. And yes, I have vacation plans. So I have next week I'll be on vacation from my normal day job. So I'll be home with the family and just do project in the garden. We're renovating the house, so there's lots of stuff to do. And when you have kids, there's never really vacation. It's constantly working and doing stuff. But it'll be fun. We'll go to the beach if the weather's nice enough, and just probably do some small trips as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I feel ready for it, for a little vacation. I need vacation from my last vacation. When we went to see my parent-in-laws, after that, I really need a vacation because that was a rough vacation. So I need to catch back up again after that. I have a theory, and tell me if you agree with this theory, or an observation that is a theory, I guess. There's this thing that is really strange, but everyone I've spoken to about it can relate to it, so see if you agree with this. When you go on a vacation or a trip, it always feels like the first half is the longest. If you're there for a week, it'll be the first 3-4 days. You're like, oh, it's gonna last for everything ever, and everything is new. And then when the middle time comes, when half of the time is over, then all of a sudden it shifts. And like, oh, we're gonna go home soon. Oh crap! Like I actually wanted to stay. And then it feels all of a sudden like it's so little time left. And this happens if it's 1 week, 1 day, or 1 year. I've been away quite often for like a year as an exchange student, and it was always the same thing. The first half year, it's like, oh, we're gonna be here forever, and then Christmas came around, like, oh crap, we're gonna go home soon. It's actually moving towards the end. Have you noticed that? It's quite interesting. Andreas, oh hey Andreas, nice to see you. Hi, nice channel you have created, and appreciate your meditation more and more. I wonder how you deal with toxic people. It's difficult. I tend to move away from toxic people, and not really let them into my life so much, but some people you have to deal with. So my general approach to everything is that I focus more on how I relate to things than what happens in the outside world. That doesn't always work. It's not always easy, but I tend to focus more on how I relate to things. If there are toxic people, instead of trying to change them or make things different, I focus on how I'm reacting towards what they're saying. It's a vague question in a way, because there could be so many things. But if someone's behaving in a way towards me that hurts me, then I would look at that hurt, and I would at the same time move away. I'm not saying stand in a position where you're being mentally or physically abused. Move away from there, but also focus on not right or wrong, not like judging well, of course, obviously, if someone's mistreating you, it's not somewhere you want to be. But move away, and then focus on how you're relating to it, and see if you can let go of that and just see the distortion in it, and then take action from that place of calmness rather than from feeling weak, feeling needy, feeling hurt, feeling like you're less than them, or feeling like something's wrong with you. And maybe there's anger towards them, maybe even hatred. And instead of acting from that, then act from that place of just, okay, as much as you can. I'm not saying let go of all of it, because that can be very difficult. And then take action from there. And that can be to simply move away. It can be to tell them, hey, I don't like this. Actually, I had today someone at work who behaved in a way that I thought was really not nice. And so I just answered what I needed to do, and then I walked away instead of making a big fuss about it, and just calmed down. And then afterwards, when I had calmed down, like, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's what they were doing was not actually okay. And we work at the same place, so I should be able to tell them not to do this. But I had to calm down first, let go of that distortion, and then when I was in a place that I could think clearly, I'm like, okay, actually, it's not just me reacting because they responded in a poor way. It's actually also me. I should do something about this, because they were doing something that was bad, kind of, for where we work. So then tomorrow I can go back and I can tell them, hey, this is not okay. I've discussed it with others, and you need to stop doing this. But I'm not coming there like, oh, you bastard, you shouldn't do that. Like, ah. So I tend to resolve all things like that I focus on me more than them. And that's not because they're right or I'm wrong. or the other way around. It's just because it just works much better when you focus on your reaction, and then when you're able to calm that down, then you take action. See, Jack is saying, the longest part of holiday is packing stage and the journey. When I got to it, it's like the speed of light. I blink and it's gone. Yeah, sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it's really, really quick. That is true, for sure. I can agree with that. Toxic people. It's difficult. I don't have many toxic people around me. I wouldn't call the person today toxic. They were just a little bit full of themselves, I think. But they weren't toxic, really. That would be exaggeration. But it is difficult because when things like that happen, we react so strongly towards it. There's this feeling inside, like, oh, like you really want to react back, and you feel hurt. And if you think about it, there's absolutely no reason to do that. You don't need to react that way. But we just can't stop ourselves. We do it automatically. We just kind of go along with this. And I'm not saying you should blame yourself for doing it. I'm just saying, when you start looking at this and you realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm reacting. They're not hurting me. I'm hurting me. I'm making myself feel bad about this. It doesn't mean they're doing something nice. That doesn't mean that you should stay around people who behave that way. But ultimately, you are the one who's making these distorted feelings towards it, and that's difficult to do something about many times. But when you do start looking at that and start seeing how your reaction is what is actually hurting you, then you all of a sudden you think, like, why can't I just stop doing this? I want to stop doing this, but I can't. But then you go along and you focus. Basically what you do is, I forgot to say actually, but you shift your awareness from thinking so much to first focusing on how you're relating, and then focusing on the senses. It's basically the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, but without the method, and you're just becoming aware of your senses. That's why it feels so good to do adrenaline sports, where you really engage with the world around you, and you get all that adrenaline to get you out of your mind and more to your senses. JVB, no, retracted, it says here. I hope that made sense, Andreas, and I hope it helped you somehow. I'm always, when I say things like this, I keep thinking, I hope people don't get me wrong and think that I'm saying that, oh, it's all your fault, you just shouldn't feel bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm also not saying don't stay in a bad situation. Instead, I'm saying that the reaction comes from you, and it's not easy to stop doing that reaction that way. And in fact, you can't really just stop it. It's more you become aware of it and you look at it, and then you go, wow, that's kind of silly. Why am I doing that? I could just choose to feel good. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. JVB, when I meditate, sometimes I encounter scary images, like scenes out of a scary movie. I think anxiety inside of me generates these images. How should I approach these scary images? I've gotten used to it. Do they come up all the time, or is it like a recurring pattern, or is it just randomly you see scary images? Andreas is saying, you explain well, so I understand. Do you find it easier to let go of difficult problems after your life as a monk? Yes, absolutely. Most certainly. It is a lot easier. Because I spent such a long time foregoing everything on the outside, not to become a monk, not to be a holy Buddhist, but because I really believe that if I can focus on my distortion towards things and make that more important than how I look, than how people perceive me, than how much money I have, than how successful or smart or whatever it is, my focus is always how am I relating towards things. And I made that bigger even than being a monk, which is not what you're supposed to do as a Buddhist. I mean, I believe that's actually what you're supposed to do, but if you follow the Sangha and the rules, then the being a monk is more important than doing that. In the beginning. He's still waiting for JVB there with his example. I've encountered lots of weird images and stuff of me. Mostly it was disturbing when I saw myself do things I didn't agree with, or like really crazy stuff. And they would usually come in. I've talked about the jnanas. There's these stages you go through, and there's one part called the dukkha jnanas, the knowledge of suffering, often referred to as the dark night of the soul. And in that period, you can see some pretty gruesome stuff. We're talking like horror movie stuff, like really, we're going to go like that. And you might be in the middle of it. You might be doing some of it. And that can be really upsetting to observe. The most important thing to know is that it's not truth. What you're seeing is not some kind of prophecy, which is again why I tell people don't focus on your thoughts so much. It's just thoughts. Don't try to overanalyze them. Don't try to understand where they're coming from, a past life, future life, your destiny, or your biggest, darkest fear, or your inner child bringing up something. Doesn't matter. They're just images coming to your mind. And just let them come up and then see if you can observe them. Again, as I've said to Andreas with everything else, is don't distort towards them. Or try not to distort towards them. Instead, try to just observe them and let them go. Because the more you're pushing and pulling against them, the stronger they're going to be. And you're like, it's like not thinking about a pink elephant, and you just keep thinking about the pink elephant. So generally, I focus, same there, I do the same thing there. I just focus on how I'm relating to it. And I try to be okay with them being there. And they usually, the reason I wanted to ask if there's a pattern to it is that they usually came from me if I had anything during the dukkha jnanas. But I didn't have it that much. It's not a big part of my meditation, although I know some people deal with it more than others. Thank you, Jack. See you next time. Andreas is asking, we'll continue a little bit longer than I'm going to go also. Andreas is asking, how long did it take you to start learning, although you may never become a complete scholar? Start learning what? If you mean with the meditation, that was something that came when I got really serious with my meditation, and I think it really started after I completed my first cycle of these jnanas. Then things, it's like shit hit the fan kind of, and I just started having weird things happen in my meditation. It was like after that I had not so much to say about it. I started shaking, and I just would close my eyes and it would just go by itself, and I didn't have to do anything. So after that, it just developed into my own practice as I just kept banging my head onto a wall and trying to figure out what was happening, or how to approach what was happening, I should say. What do you think about sleep paralysis? I've had that, actually. I've had that twice, I think. When I've kind of woken up and I couldn't move my body. That was a bit scary. Maybe not scary so much as, because I remember it was weird. I remember the second time, I can't remember so much, but the first time I remember I was in, I think it was MBMC in Malaysia. And I remember I had a really tough period in the meditation, and then I woke up and I was awake, and I had no connection between my mind and my body. My mind, it was just like I could be aware that there was a body there, but I couldn't control anything. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't move my arms. I was just lying there. And I was completely aware, but I had no direct connection between my mind and my body, so I couldn't do anything. And I felt like I lay there for a long time. And I don't think I was really scared that time, because I was meditating so much that was just another state. I went through so much weird stuff that it was just another strange state. But I remember that made quite an impression, because, like I said, it's strange to be fully awake and aware, but have no control over your body. It's just your mind being aware. Andreas, let it go. Yeah, my daughter would sing that Let It Go song from Frozen. It's a good song. JVB, not during every meditation. I noticed that these scary images come up after I've ignored my meditation. I think these images is a way of my anxiety getting back at me for ignoring it for a while. I think it's, I don't think you need to make it into, people tend to do this a lot. I just had a conversation with one of my students, my coaching students the other day, and I was saying that it's very common that people make, so for you, you have your anxiety and you make that into a person, and it's almost like it's a separate entity living inside of you, and you're kind of working against that entity. You're having fights with it, your arguments, and like you're trying to get along with it, and you have the inner child here, and then you have your dark side here, and it's like all these people living inside of you. And I found that it doesn't really help that much to approach it like that. Even though I get what you're saying, it just makes, because now you've created an image of like, oh, I'm mistreating my anxiety, so then it's getting back at me. Instead of saying that by not calming down my mind gets over agitated, so it tends to spit out whatever is on its mind. I mean, that's less tense, less agitated, it's less to overcome. But we tend to build up these like battles inside of ourselves, and I try to always steer people away from that when I work with them. So instead I ask them to focus on what is actually happening. And in your case, I'd say that what's actually happening is that when you meditate, you somehow let go of this tension that you have inside of you. And when you don't meditate for a while, then something builds up. And when that builds up, then you have more difficulties with these things. So that way it's less you feeling like you can fail, like you've done something wrong, like you should be doing better. Instead, it's just, oh, this just cause and effect. When I do less of this, that happens. And sometimes you're so busy with life, or you're so happy with life, then you forget about it. And then sometimes what comes back is that you have more anxiety and all these images. So do you get what I'm getting at? Do you understand what I'm getting at? I'm saying basically don't put so much tension on it. Instead, it's just something that happens, and there's a cause and effect when certain things happen. Okay, I think that's a perfect point to stop today with. Stephen, do you intuitively understand what it means that all life is one? I don't really agree with that statement. I'll just finish with Stephen. And what I mean is that it's not that all life is one. It's just that when you're in a state of non-centricness, non-duality, you can't feel the separation. That doesn't mean that all life is one. That just means that you can't feel you as a separate entity. And then people start interpreting that as in saying, we're all one soul coming together. Like, I have no idea about those things. That's an interpretation of an experience that people draw too far. Just as if you sit and meditate and you see a light, that's your God, Goddess, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to put as a name to that light that you're seeing when you're meditating. So I'm saying you don't need to do that. It's just the light. And then maybe it is all those things, but I can't say that. Same thing with this, meaning you can experience non-separation, but that doesn't mean that we're all one. It also doesn't mean that we're not all one. I'm just saying, people say a lot of stuff over and over, and then it becomes accepted as truth. You start having arguments with people about this, and it's just, it doesn't really need to be like that. But yes, you can definitely feel that there's little, I feel very little separation between me and things around me, but it's not how people expect it to be exactly. Yes, you know what's interesting, I'm no longer scared by these scary images. Happy to hear that, JVB. At first I was a little scared of the images, but over time I've just learned to sit with them. Good. Everyone, thank you for a really nice evening, and I'll see you again on Thursday where it's group sitting. I wish you all a pleasant week and see you soon.